It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. From Fantatrax TV, this is Good Morning Tatooine!
Good morning, Tatooine, indeed, from a very stormy, what we're calling it, Arwen, I think is what we're calling the storm here. So if we have technical problems throughout the show, you'll know why. We've had electricity cuts, internet cuts, all sorts, so bear with us. This could be an interesting show to watch. So what have we got coming up? First up, we're going to be talking Denis Lawson, who talked with our very own Mark Newbold recently on Making Tracks. We'll be getting insight into what he said about returning to the Star Wars galaxy. Next up, Natasha Liu Bordizzo is apparently going to be Sabine Wren in Ahsoka. We'll be talking all about that. Kathleen Kennedy did a pretty wide-ranging interview with Empire magazine to promote the Book of Boba Fett, and she made some comments about Rangers of the New Republic, so we'll be digging into that. Star Wars The Old Republic, celebrating its 10 years. We'll be checking out the 10-year celebration montage. The Book of Boba Fett got a new teaser called Rain this past week. We'll be watching that and giving our thoughts on what's coming up with Boba Fett. And there's a classic Dave Filoni, George Lucas picture right there as we're talking Dave Filoni's comments on the writing process for Ahsoka. And of course, the important elements, we need you guys' involvement. So subscribe, ring the bell if you're on YouTube. Those of you on Facebook, like us, share it, follow us, of course. We need your comments because your comments is what makes the show. So get in the chat on YouTube and on Facebook. Let us know your thoughts on what we're discussing, and we'll include them and we'll try and answer your thoughts. If you're watching on Twitter, your comments can't be seen by us, but if you jump over to Facebook or YouTube, we'll see them there. And to join me to go through all this news from Desert Planet Discs, Carl Bayless. Hello, Carl.
Hello.
How are you today?
Yes, stormy Britain, definitely.
Stormy Britain, indeed.
Yeah.
Desert Planet Discs on Fantatrax Radio, or
yes,
one of our main podcasts over there. What's been happening on the show recently?
So the most recent episode we put out a couple of week and a half ago was TFI Life Day, which was Greg and myself discussing the relative merits, I think is the kindest way to put it, of the holiday special, the original holiday special, not the Lego one, although that did crop up, in all its glory, and debuted the latest Darth Elvis track, which is a version of Good Night But Not Goodbye from the holiday special. And just basically sort of chatted about our thoughts, how things have been brought back into canon, including one that will interest your good self, Brian. The which way's the camera? That one. The Life Day Cookbook, which we discussed on the show, and I think Greg had already ordered it. I ordered it while we were recording the show. So yes, we shall be discussing the relative our favourite recipes from that in the next show, and the next show will be our Christmas episode. So expect lots of festive fun and frolics, and we're, fingers crossed, getting a special guest as well.
Oh, very nice.
But stay tuned for that one.
Also on Fantatrax Radio, Making Tracks, you've been out at some of the shows across the UK, picking up content for Making Tracks as well. What shows have you been to?
So Mark and myself, along with various other members of the team, Mark Mulcast has been at a couple of the shows. We did MCM Birmingham a few weeks ago now, which was really good, and Mark Newbold hosted a panel with author Adam Christopher there, So that was really good. He's writing the upcoming Shadows of the Sith novel, so that was a really interesting talk from his point of view. He's also done stuff for Stranger Things, Doctor Who, and a few other sort of game franchises and things. So really interesting talk with him. And then last weekend was Wales Comic Con, and I know we're going to be touching on some of the things that came up there. But yeah, really good amount of Star Wars guests there, and brilliant just to see conventions returning to something like normal. The guests that we spoke to at both shows were, really happy to be there, happy to be meeting fans again. And yeah, it just seems like the fans were obviously out in numbers at both shows. So nice to see that conventions seem to be back.
Definitely. You were also at a special screening, the Return of the Jedi.
Yes, just yesterday evening, in fact, Return of the Jedi live with the Novello Concert Orchestra at Birmingham Symphony Hall, which is a lovely, lovely venue for, well, all music, but certainly it was designed principally with the orchestral and sort of acoustic-based music like that. Very much at the forefront of it as a music room. So that was really, really good. And I know a couple of years ago, again, Mark, Claire, Paul, myself were lucky enough to actually get to speak to some of the guys from the Novello Orchestra and the conductor and various people, and saw a little bit behind the scenes from the New Hope screening that they did. And that was, so I think there's articles and various bits on making tracks and other articles on the site, so check those out. But if it's coming to a town near you or a city near you, venue, then do check it out, because it's the biggest compliment, and we were all saying this last night. The biggest compliment you can pay them is that because you've got a sort of 50, 60 foot screen playing Return of the Jedi, albeit a special edition, which did temper it slightly, but you almost forget that the music is being played by a live orchestra, because it's that good. Yeah. It's bang on timing wise, and you just sort of drift away, start watching the film again.
Yeah, awesome.
Although, as I then commented, I think I've seen it before.
Talking of events we're at and people you met,
yes.
First story up, Denis Lawson. We got our very own Mark Newbold, got a chance to speak to him recently. Rare that Denis maybe does a Star Wars podcast, and even signings as well. So good to actually see him on the show floor, enjoying himself, and getting involved in being very kind enough to do a podcast, which is up now if you listen to the Making Tracks up on Fantha Tracks Radio and your podcatcher of choice. And
yes.
You were there as well, Carl. How was Denis?
He was in really, really good form. He was happy to be there meeting fans. He would say kindly agreed to speak to us. We were racking our brains. We're not aware of any podcast interview that he's done prior to that, so it may well be a first. As you say, he doesn't do a lot of shows or public appearances, and certainly I think there was a period of time where he wouldn't even sort of acknowledge the fact that he was in Star Wars. So to have been brought back into the fold, and as he says in the interview, JJ actually phoned him personally, and he thought it was a wind-up. Because Hollywood directors don't call legacy actors such as him
Yeah.
directly, and he was like, "Seriously, who is this?" Um, but no, it was really nice to talk to him. I say it was only a brief chat. As always with these things, you sort of get thrown into the moment and then come away and think, "Oh, we should have asked that." Because I know there's one of I think it's the last book of the Aftermath trilogy that Wedge is featured in as sort of almost one of the lead characters.
Yeah, he took a bit of prominence in the story. Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be interesting to know if he was aware of that, and whether he'd read that just to see what happened to his character. But again, it's one of those things. Some actors are really wrapped up in the character. Others, they turn up, they play the character, and then walk away, sort of thing.
Yeah.
What happens to the character in the interim is only relevant if it then comes back to be part of another appearance by that character, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
talking of actors and actresses, Ahsoka apparently has cast Sabine Wren. Natasha Liu Bordizzo, not an actress I'm familiar with. Are you familiar with her work previously?
I'm not, but certainly it does seem to be that obviously we've got the lead in Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
But all the other characters seem to be being leaked slightly.
It's almost like official leaks, and they're ending up in
Yeah.
Variety, which is kind of where the production companies go to get a story out, really. Which is kind of odd, because this is the kind of thing that would make a nice announcement. It kind of draws me back to we haven't done a show in a fortnight. I've been away, and the two things we should really be talking about is Hasbro's Rancor, right? Not talking about that because it's just a complete disaster. Disney Plus Day, which we're not talking about because there's literally no announcements. So why would you not drop a cast announcement that day? That was odd. So if she's been cast, fantastic. Don't know her work at all, so I'm gonna have to check out IMDb, see what she's been in, watch a couple of films, and learn a little bit more about her. But the people online that do seem to know her body of work seem to be pretty excited by it.
Yeah.
And we've lost Carol. I told you there'd be connection problems. So I'm now relying on you guys in the chat. Do you know? Oh, he's coming back. Here we go. Let's try again. He's back.
Storm Gremlins.
Storm Gremlins. Right. So just have to say there to the guys in the chat if they're familiar with her, what they thought of it as well.
Yeah.
And for yourself, again, you're like me, not familiar with our body of work. But what's your kind of general opinions on Ahsoka overall? Is that a show you're looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to it, and I know I've said to people in the past, I do wonder with some of these.
And he's gone again. We knew this would happen. Sorry, guys. The storms in the local area for me are causing all sorts of issues. We'll try and get in. He's coming back again. It's like a boomerang. Welcome back to the show, Carol.
Welcome back. Exciting. Yes. Obviously, Disney don't want me to get this point out, but I do think with some of these leaked cast announcements, especially for sort of like Mando, when you've got Ahsoka coming into it, and now you've got the rumors of Ezra having been cast, Thrawn having been cast, now Sabine. I do wonder whether it's partly let's get these cast announcement sort of bubbling as leaks, so that people aren't, if you're fans of Rebels, they are beloved characters. The next one will be who do they cast as Kanan, if Kanan comes into the story in any way.
Paul Naylor having a dig there.
He's allowed a few cheap shots. We have been taking the mickey out of him quite a bit online in the last few days. So get well soon, Paul.
Yeah. So as Ahsoka's taken shape, a show that's not Rangers of the New Republic. Kathleen Kennedy confirming to Empire magazine that it's not moving forward. I think everybody kind of probably realised that when it lost its lead actress and all sorts of reasons we won't bother digging back into. But the concepts from it, they're going to try and pull back into The Mandalorian and I guess Ahsoka as well, perhaps. Your thoughts on losing a series? Obviously, we didn't know too much about it. Kathleen confirming that they hadn't even began works on scripts, and it was just a concept that they put out there. Your thoughts on the show being abandoned?
I think again it's one of those. I think because of the parallels with Marvel being owned by Disney, I think people sort of look at like, oh, Marvel have announced 10 shows, and we've got 10 shows. Star Wars have announced 10 shows. One of them's been derailed. One of them's been canned. The other one's gone into production difficulties. Oh, it's all doom and gloom. I think there is an element of the fact that Marvel are a lot further down their journey, if you like, in under Disney ownership, and I've got sort of 10, 12 years, maybe more now, of existence in that realm and building of the story, building of the worlds that are involved. I think Star Wars is trying to catch up with that, but everybody's judging it on where Marvel is now.
Yeah.
So I think there are, there probably were Marvel projects that were mooted along the way and have been canned. It's just that they seem to be a little bit better at keeping those canned projects under their hats.
I kind of agree with Andrew here that Lucasfilm could have learnt by now not to announce anything until they started filming. They're not making life easy for themselves. The rumour is Kathleen Kennedy signed a new 3-year contract. As terms of a producer, she's considered to be one of the best in the business, so we should be happy to have her. But on the same hand, Lucasfilm aren't making themselves looking too clever with a barrage of creative leaving their jobs, a barrage of projects being abandoned. It's not a pretty public persona they're pushing out there.
No, but as I say, I think the problem is the yardstick is Marvel, and that's so much further advanced, and Lucasfilm are learning all this on the go, really. And I'm sure there was always, the intention when they were bringing in, the new era of George Lucas's, the Lord Millers even, and people like that to direct Star Wars films. That was a bold and brave creative choice, but it ultimately didn't really work the way they were envisaging it going to work. So the
way I would call it was Disney paid $4.5 billion for a film production company that had nobody within the company once George left capable of making films. They had no in-house production staff. They only built that app when they had a project on the go, and Lucasfilm hadn't had a project on the go for quite a number of years.
Yep.
At the point of the purchase. And again, you've got one guy in charge who says yes or no, and that's what happens. Suddenly they're into having to rule by committee and board and make decisions, and they really haven't gotten up to speed quick enough. There's been a lot of staff changes, a lot of people brought in, but I don't think enough people brought in to really man a production side. And certainly in the PR, they seem 20 years behind the curve when it comes to PR as well. So They're not doing themselves any favours there, so we've kind of got to hope to improve. As a fandom, you want positive stories and positive news coming out. Nobody wants to be talking the negative. So, Lucasfilm can improve, should improve, and we'll put this one, Rangers of the New Republic, down to another misstep in that journey, I think.
Yeah, although again, it's one of those, at the start of that process, they got I fully believe they had every intention of making the program. What they can't legislate for is, if the reason that it's now been sort of shelved or the storylines sidelined, there could be a whole host of reasons. But if one of those is the whole sort of Gina Carano situation, then they I can't say they can't be liable for, but they can't be
held
they haven't got
as such.
Yeah,
you've got
they
to
haven't
hold the
got
actors to their own responsibilities as well, don't you? Really.
That's it. So you kind of.
If you dig a hole and you get a chance to pull yourself out the hole, but you decide to keep digging, then it's only going to go it's only going to go one way.
Yeah. So.
On a project that has been a success for Lucasfilm for a very long time, Star Wars: The Old Republic, celebrating 10 years on the go. Harking back to the LucasArts days as well, when Lucasfilm had its own in-house games company as well. Times have changed on that. Don't no longer have that. Star Wars gaming's not what it once was. EA have not really done a huge deal with the license to date. Disney don't seem to worry about it too much, because according to Bob Iger, as long as they pay their license fee, he's happy. Not the best attitude, I don't think, for a fandom. But from the business point of view, it makes perfect sense. Your thoughts as the Old Republic hits 10 years? Is there another 10 years in this?
Well, I watched this trailer and I rewatched it earlier just to confirm that I hadn't seen things. And right at the end, it does make mention of 14th of December this year. Now, I know in the, Bring Home the Bounty, there was one of the weeks where there was a picture of like a game controller as the image from the bounty puck.
Yeah.
So, putting two and two together, I'm forecasting that is going to be the announcement of a sort of a new era of Old Republic. Here we go. Legacy of the Sith.
14th, yeah.
Yeah,
Excuse
14th.
Excuse me. It's not
Bless
corona.
you, sir.
I'm okay.
Bless you, sir. Yeah, so I think that clearly is going to be either a new expansion.
Yeah, it's a new expansion pack that's coming out. Yeah.
So, I hope it does continue, because it's always been a very enjoyable era of Star Wars.
Thank you, Mark.
I do wonder. A lot of there's been rumours of film properties around then, and I think a lot of people thought what has ended up being High Republic was going to be more in that era, because this is sort of thousands of years prior to the the sort of New Hope era, rather than hundreds, which is where High Republic's ended up being pitched. And the Game of Thrones guys, I think, were rumoured to be setting their project in in that era as well. Whether that's again just people going, oh, they did a really good show, apart from season 8. Set in a sort of medieval-esque era. Therefore, why if we port them into Star Wars, let's give them the Old Republic. Yeah, I think a lot of these things, especially something like the Old Republic, has got legs regardless of what the rest of the franchise does. Um,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
it, again, one of the things noticed being back out at conventions, both the conventions I've been to in recent weeks have big sort of gaming areas, where you've got again 40-foot screens and people sat down, doing uh, dance challenges, various.
Come on, admit it. That's what you and Neil have been
That's
doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and Mark Newbold did the Pop Asia dance challenge at
Quite
MCM.
believe it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so gaming does have its own almost. I won't say subculture, but it's got its own arm of fandom. And I think certainly something like Old Republic, you know, has existed for 10 years without any spotlight from the main franchise. So I think it can quite happily continue for another 10 years and beyond.
Yeah.
But it would also be nice to see some of that linked in, um, to some of the properties, be it a Disney Plus series,
Yeah.
something like that would be really cool as well.
So
Yes, we did. We rocked Pop Asia.
yeah. And talking of Disney Plus and talking about things that have lasted a long time, Boba Fett still as popular as ever, about to become even more popular, I imagine. Book of Boba Fett coming December 29th. Excited for this?
Yeah, yeah. As listeners to Desert Planet Discs, in TFI Life Day, the slight diversion we had when we were talking about the animated part of the holiday special, we also linked in a bit of chat about the Fett trailer. Um, the all the trailers I've seen so far, the short teaser that came out earlier. In fact, was it yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of scene setting, but not an actual great deal of sort of plot exposing. What is actually happening, other than what we already pretty much know from the post-credit scenes in the end of season 2 of Mando, which is Boba Fett's taken over Jabba's castle, stroke palace, stroke empire, and that's about all we know. We've got some nice little tidbits of Ithorians, the Bomar monks. Yeah, as Mark says, it just sets the tone really without giving away the story. Which
Yeah, I think we can comfortably say Jabba's out of the picture. He's dead, gone. There's a power
yeah,
vacuum. Boba effectively going to try and fill that vacuum, run the crime operation on Tatooine his way, and probably open up a book on a number of people and send out potentially other people to do his dirty work for him, or potentially take on some of the dirty work himself. And I think there's going to be a bit of a hybrid of him, but I think it appears a lot of it's going to be set on Tatooine. We're going to see bits of Tatooine we've not seen before. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I like sort of the deep dive into the crime world of Star Wars.
Interesting point there. We're not ready for Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, do we deserve it?
Mm.
Wonder where the rest of the huts are. Great question. I think that's a question that needs to be answered in the show. I would like a visit to Nil Hutta. I would like to see Boba go up against a Hutt family, introduce some Hutt kingpins back into the franchise, get things a little bit interesting.
Zero the Hutt. Yeah, he was
remember Zero the Hutt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark's there. Fett as a kingpin makes sense. Gets gloves dirty.
Yeah.
War with the Bounty Hunters Guild. That's kind of where I think it may end up, if we get multiple seasons of it, and I think we will. Pretty confident that we will. I kind of think that's the direction it's going to go. It's going to be bounty hunters versus Boba. I think is how it's going to end up in the end. He's kind of this renegade. I'd like to find out more about Fennec. Why is Boba so invested in Fennec? It's not normal for Boba to have a partner as such, and he's the one that brought her back to life. But odd.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Want to find out more about what's happened to him over time as well. And
has he kind of, I won't say got softer, but has maybe there's an element of his backstory.
Yeah,
Paul
throwing in Omega there as well, which is another potential.
Yeah, no, that is a very good, and again, that's kind of one of those. I know there's a lot of fan theories kicking around that that's going to be part of the series. I hope it's not too much. I'd really like it if that is almost the post-credit scenes from season 1.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense because then it makes you want to watch the next season of Bad Batch a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I know they're trying to sort of weave the shows into each other to some degree, or the properties even, because you've got comics, you've got novels and things. So to have the characters cropping up, we've got Fennec now, who's been in Mando, has been in Bad Batch, and he's now going to be in Book of Boba. So you want that continuity of characters, but I think to have it really on the nose and go, oh yeah, well, in Bad Batch we've just learnt about Boba has a effectively twin sister, and oh look, here she is in episode 1 of the Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. It's like, oh right, yeah, and then oh look, Grogu's cropped up as well. It's like no, we don't need all those cross references.
I kind of agree with what Paul Moore's saying here. Don't do it in the first season. Feed it into the second.
Yeah.
What I want to see in the first season, which is hopefully not too controversial, but I would like to see a character that's in the Obi-Wan series. The Obi-Wan encounters in Tatooine, and then we see that character a little bit older in Boba Fett, but we actually encounter the character first in Boba Fett, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Another one that you could loop.
And we've lost Carol, so we're back to the group. So you guys, what's your thoughts on Book of Boba Fett? Mark's liking lots of links between the comics, books, and animation, and even suggests Rangers an animated series. Carol's back in the room.
I'm back in the room. Yeah.
Return of Rex, suggested by Phil Parker. Return of Carol, suggested by me.
Yeah. One of the ones I think you could loop in a younger version of somebody that we then get to see potentially in the sequel trilogy would be Lawson Tekka.
Yeah.
As well.
So
that's a whole sort of. I know there's been a bit explored in some of the comics.
Yeah. Not much. Just touched on it really.
Yeah. So it would be nice to see. Kind of a bit more of a backstory on him, or the movement that he was part of, because they were obviously fans of the.
What we're going to see, which is almost a guarantee. Halcyon.
Yeah.
And nobody will complain about the price of the rooms.
Yeah, and a bit maybe a visit to Black Spire.
Maybe it's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Feels almost inevitable.
Yeah, I think there is going to be some again. Where it sort of filters into the story, but if they make a bit too much of it, I think I've discussed on Desert Planet Discs several times. One of the I think it's the Black Spire Outpost book, Galaxy's Edge Black Spire Outpost or something. And it's a really good story. It picks up off the back of the Phasma book with Captain Cardinal and sort of events in that, and Weimaraner, no, Weimaraner's a dog, isn't it? Anyway,
I hope it is.
yeah. But Weimaraner is a breed of dog, I know that much. But there's all that sort of. The story's really good, but
I
the
just have
book.
to say it, seeing as Mark said it, Kanja Club.
Oh yes, Weimaraudi, that's it. Or Muradi, that's it. I wasn't far off with Weimaraner.
But yeah, that is it's another potential, isn't it? And it almost feels like it's the kind of thing that Disney would want to push. I hope they really push back against that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say that book is a good story hidden behind an advert for the Disney park, because it's like they've gone into Ogre's Cantina, and rather than they get a drink, they get whatever, and
They
each time
downloaded
they
the
go
app and queued.
Yeah, almost. It's not quite that bad, but yeah, I had to wait 2 hours to get a drink. But then it literally lists like, they had this bluish green liquid that frothed. You're like, no, we don't need that level of description. And they went to Ronto Roasters.
Yeah, as we're talking about the writing process, we should jump on to the next news item, because Dave Filoni talks about it, and he's talking about the Ahsoka show, and his comment really there, the defining comment, that he finds it thrilling. So talking about the writing room on these things, these are kind of being handled very differently from it appears a lot of TV shows, and that there's not so much a writing room, that we are getting individuals taking charge of these episodes, which seems to help. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni have obviously got an overview of The Mandalorian, of the Book of Boba Fett, of Ahsoka, so they really seem to be controlling a huge element of Disney Plus content. Obviously that's going to change with Andor and Obi-Wan coming along, but this kind of like little circle of content they seem to have a pretty firm control on. I just wondered, are you finding that working better for you, having a small creative team focused on a particular subset of Star Wars?
Yeah, I think certainly from what we've seen so far, and ultimately, we haven't seen a great deal. The 2 seasons of Mando, the overarching stories are obviously, the start and end points are, being controlled, as you say, by Favoloni, as we like to call them on Desert Planet discs. Just portmanteau everything these days. And but I think the way that's being done, different directors, on different episodes, they haven't felt too disparate and too at odds with each other. You watch a season of The Mandalorian and it flows quite nicely. Yes, there's slight different styles, but that seems to fit with the storytelling. And ultimately, I know Dave Filoni has been schooled at the hand of George Lucas, and that's what it's all about. It's all about telling the story. So if you've got the skeleton outline of Ahsoka is going to start here and end here, and what happens in between, well, it's got to hit this point, it's got to hit this point, but how it gets there is up to you. You're writing this episode. And they might even have skeleton outlines for an episode where she does this, an episode where this happens. But then giving that to somebody, a separate writing team almost. I say so far it seems to be working.
Yeah.
And as Mark's
mentioned, the fact that Dave's learnt under Lucas makes all the difference, and it does, because
yeah,
for as much criticism as people can have of George Lucas. He is kind of the master of creating characters and creating interwoven stories.
Yeah, and I mean, one of Mark's earlier points as well, Dave Filoni has been writing Ahsoka for a crazy amount of years now, 14, 15 years. I think he's been described somewhere before as, he's Ahsoka's dad.
Yeah.
He's got massive amounts of investment in that character. He created the character. It's the same as if you were to talk to Kevin Scott and people like that, about characters like Dr. Aphra, there's a level of investment in that character because that's something you've come up with, and people have taken to it over a period of time. I guess that's every creative's ultimate dream, is to create a character that people take to their hearts and want to find out more about.
Absolutely. And I think on that note, we've covered all of the week's news. As my tech goes worse, as my camera gets fuzzier and fuzzier, and before we drop off the air, we'll call it a day for the show. Appreciate you, Carol, for sticking with us through all the tech issues. Everyone in the room, appreciate your comments and your involvement in the show. It makes the show all that much better for us. We'll be back next week. Hopefully better weather. Hopefully technology holds up for then. And check out Father Tracks Radio. Check out Desert Planet Disc if you haven't done for. Check out the Denis Lawson interview in full on Making Tracks as well. And obviously keep up to date with all the Star Wars news on fantatracks.com. And we'll be back next weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news each and every day on fantatracks.com. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, and Pinterest at Fantatracks. And be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow Fantatracks TV to be alerted to new content and to be a part of our live shows.